Welcome everyone to today's webinar brought to you by the NCU Faculty Resource Center. I'm your host, John Orlando, and you couldn't have picked a better day to show up, as today we're going to be talking about how to put together video welcomes and bios. So it's not nearly as hard as you think, and it's a great way to introduce yourself to your course, to your students, and introduce your course. Now, as always, we want you to participate, so please send in your questions and comments at any time during this event through the question feature on your panel, and we're going to answer them near the end. Also, mark your calendars for our next event on September 18th, where we will be having Susan Kraus with us to talk about the new Academic Success Center. And this is a place to send students who are having various academic problems. So this is definitely not to be missed. With that, I would like to start us with an example. Now, we're going to be showing you a lot of examples, a lot of videos during this presentation. And unfortunately, GoToMeeting does not allow you to play videos. So the workaround we're going to do is I'm going to send you a link, or in this case, one link and then links in the future, through the comment feature. So you should now see a link that's been sent to the audience. Please click that link or copy and paste it into your browser. And at the same time, I'm just going to time out how long it's going to take, and then we're going to get back. So this is a link to a bio example, my own bio, not surprisingly, and I'd like you to watch this. When you're done, get back and we will talk about this. Thanks.
Hello, all. This is Tracy. I'm helping John out today. John getting some questions. The link is in the chat box that is in your control panel. And we've got some folks saying it's not going to let them open it.
So can you copy and paste? You should be able to at least copy and paste, because we did try that. If you double click it, maybe your system simply isn't set to auto open, but you should be able to copy and paste it into your browser URL.
It does work.
Okay.
I'm hearing John in both ears, which is scary.
Okay, we'll give people an extra minute then to get that rolling. I'll give people about another minute or so. Now I'm done playing mine, but I realize a few people had a little trouble getting this going. And do stop at the end of the video. Nowadays, YouTube actually links videos in playlists, so don't go on to the next video. They'll autoplay off the playlist. So with that, I'm going to hope that most people have seen it. If you're still listening, you can even just stop it now. You don't have to watch to the end. Now, this is an example of really two different styles meshed together. This video starts and ends with a webcam style where you simply have your webcam running and you're talking to the camera. And in the middle is what we call digital storytelling style. That's where you have a narration and you have images, and the images amplify your message. So those are really the two different styles for you to choose from. In fact, I've used both of them. In this case, I just combined both in one video, but I've used one for one purpose and the other for the other purpose. Webcam style is nice because faces humanize us. I mean, when you think about it, humans have been around for, what, 1.7 million years, so 99.9% of our evolution, we didn't communicate through written words. We communicated through face, spoken words, face-to-face. So we're genetically programmed to pay attention to faces. Right? When you see a face, you just kind of focus on it. So that's one of the advantages of webcam. The advantage of digital storytelling is you have more control over content, right? You can show photos of your childhood, where you've been, stuff like that. So we're going to talk about both of those today. And also, there are really two major subjects you can do your videos on. You could do an intro to a class, talking about what the class is about, what's interesting about it. Or you could do a bio by yourself, which this particular one was. You could also do videos along the way. I've done video discussions in my courses where I wrap up a discussion each week with a video. Now, I'm going to now start us taking a look at what a video would look like for a class welcome. So I'm going to give you another link here, and we're going to put it right into the discussion board in just a second, or the chat. I'm sorry, I should say the chat feature. And we'll send this out. So once again, what I'd like you to do is just copy and paste it into a browser window, separate browser window from the one you're watching this, so you don't close this down. And then we'll talk about a webcam type video. So play that one right now, and I'll give you a minute or so, or a couple minutes to take a look at that example of a webcam video to introduce the course.
And folks, while you do that, John, I wanted to alert you that you are fading in and out. Your sound is good right now, so just stay in one place.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I guess I'm shifting around here. Give it now 30 seconds or so to finish that up. So hopefully you've seen that. Now, I tend to prefer using the webcam videos for course introductions and using digital storytelling for my bio. And I think, like I said, it's probably because when it comes to bios, you're talking about yourself and you can bring in images from your past and things like that. So it seems to me like there's a natural fit with the digital storytelling form for a bio. And then webcam intro maybe works better for a course introduction or something like that. And also, as I mentioned, you introduce yourself to your students by showing your face, by giving your voice. You immediately humanize yourself to your students. You really kick off that relationship. Now, the advantage of a webcam video is that it's easy to put together. All you need is a webcam. Right? You buy a Logitech webcam, which is my favorite brand. As soon as you get running, it comes with its own software. This is a screenshot from what it looks like. And it's all self-explanatory. You just hit the button and let it roll and record your video. And when you're done, then you upload it to, say, YouTube or Vimeo or whatever you prefer. So webcam video is a fairly easy video to put together, right? It's very simple. You don't have to think about images and stuff like that. But there is one major disadvantage, and that's that webcam videos require multiple takes because you're likely to make mistakes. Nobody, well, maybe not nobody, but most people can't just speak through a video without making a mistake. Most people talk and they, oops, I get set wrong, shoot again. Oops, got wrong, shoot again. So you're probably going to have to do multiple takes with a webcam video. So that's kind of a little bit of a disadvantage. In general, webcam video probably shouldn't be more than a couple minutes long. So even if you have to do 4 or 5 takes, as long as the frustration doesn't cause you to swat the webcam off your monitor, which you shouldn't do because it won't survive the landing, then it doesn't take too much time. But that is one disadvantage of the webcam model. Other than that, I think it's a great way to introduce yourself to your students and introduce the course. Now, there are a number of secrets to follow when shooting a webcam video. And once again, I'm going to give you another video to watch. And by the way, we're doing a lot of videos right at the beginning of this. Now, then we're going to actually get off the videos a little bit. But I wanted to show you some videos right at the beginning of this talk to kind of set the discussion, give you examples. So what I want to do now is give you a short video I shot with some important tips that you should follow that will help you shoot better webcam videos. And then after you watch this, I'll add a few comments of my own as well. So you should now see another link. That link will give you another YouTube video, and just roll through that one. We'll give you a couple minutes, and then I'll talk a little more about some of the things that were covered in that and other things you should keep in mind when you shoot a webcam. Yeah, give you another 30 seconds or so. Okay, and I'm not going to repeat what was in that video, but I want to kind of reiterate a couple points. And I think the most important thing, when you're shooting a webcam video, it's easy to think that you're talking to a camera, right? Because that's what you look like you're doing. You're talking to a camera. But remember, you're not talking to a camera. You're talking to a person at the other end of the line. And that's why I think people become unexpressive. They kind of drain the expression out of their faces, their voices. So you really almost have to force yourself to compensate for that. You know, really think about the fact you're talking to a person. Imagine there's a person. Put a little photo of a person underneath your webcam. And keep that in mind. People will pick up on the fact that you're talking to a camera. So just remember that, think of it as talking to a person and being expressive. I know right now I'm not talking to a monitor. I'm talking to, according to our panel here, 72 people. So that's how it should come off. So that's an important thing, I think, that will help you kind of get your message across. Another thing you notice, by the way, is that particular video has 4 different parts, and there are transitions between them. And I did that to get around this multiple take problem. So as I mentioned, if you shoot a webcam video, when you make a mistake, you're going to have to reshoot. And if the longer the video, the more likely you're going to make a mistake, and the more likely you're going to have to reshoot, and then you get frustrated. Well, a simple way around that is actually to shoot it in pieces, to shoot it in parts, and then stitch it together at the end with the video editor. And I'm actually going to show us a very simple video editor to use. And you can add transitions between the parts. And that's what I did. I simply added a fade in, fade out, and very simple to do. That way I can shoot it in parts, and then I can do my, make my mistakes only on a part that's, say, 75 seconds long or 60 seconds long or something like that. Another kind of cool fact, and you should have fun with this, I mean, this should be fun, is to shoot in different locations. Shoot one in your office, shoot one in your kitchen, shoot one in your living room, shoot one outside skiing or something like that. To change the scenery and stuff like that. By the way, don't just stitch together videos from the same spot without a transition that involve multiple takes, because your head kind of shakes, and it's real obvious that your head moved back and forth. So either add a transition or shoot from different locations. So those are a couple little tidbits, little kind of cinematographic hints I would give you on shooting these kinds of videos. But I want to give you a couple important hints on content as well. And the first hint is you want to start by getting people's attention. Now, this is kind of interesting. If you ever watch a TED Talk, the reason why TED Talks are so good is that they coach the presenters on professional presentation skills. And they're very, very simple. It's a few simple rules. Like number one, obviously, is no bullet points. But the other thing they do is they always start by getting the audience attention. They never, ever start by saying, these are the 5 topics we'll cover. That's the worst way to start a live presentation or a video or anything. You never see that in a documentary. You never see that in a TED Talk. You start by doing something to get your audience attention, because communication starts with getting someone's attention. That's where it begins. No matter what you're doing, you're always getting someone's attention. So I started by having a little fun on both the videos. I made a joke on the webcam video about the dinosaurs in the background, and on the bio video, I started by making this little joke about Wisconsin. And I did this sort of playing on comparing 2 different elements. There's a sort of pattern. So part of that, by the way, was a bit of an inside joke. It'd be interesting to see how many people actually get that. The pattern was both the good and the bad. And I figured, I'll have a little fun with that, see if it gets people's attention. So start by getting people's attention. You can start with a question. You can say something like, well, why are you taking this course? What got you to take this course? Or maybe something about yourself. Interesting example, I actually few years ago, I did a talk at an insurance company on how to give really great presentations. And one person in the audience, named by Ann Zaccardi, listened to it and decided she was going to quit her job and become a professional presenter. And she did. A year and a half ago, she did a TED Talk in Phoenix. You can look it up, Ann Zaccardi. And she started her talk, the very first words out of her mouth were, "Do you think you're smart?" Well, do you think you're smart? Think about that as a way of starting a video to students. But that's the kind of thing. So anything that just starts by getting people's attention, and because that's really what communication is about. The other thing is that when you do some kind of video about your course, always ask yourself, well, why is this course interesting? Don't just repeat simple facts about the course, right? That's 8 weeks long, that you have an assignment every week, stuff like that. That's stuff they can read on their own, right? You've got them for a couple minutes. Ask, why is the course interesting? Why are you interested? You're teaching it. You must find it interesting. What drew you to it? What drew you to the whole field to begin with? In the example you saw of the course, this was a course on relationships in teaching. And what I decided was interesting is that faculty tend, and I certainly believe this for a long time, to think of teaching as a kind of transfer of water model, where there's knowledge in your head, and you're trying to do a brain dump, transferring that knowledge to the head of the student. So that what a teacher has is their knowledge in their head. You think of a great teacher as sort of really smart, having a lot of knowledge. But that's not teaching. That really isn't teaching. Teaching is about cultivating skills in a student, and that begins with relationships. That's, to me, what was interesting. That what we commonly think of in higher education as teaching is just plain wrong. This sort of transfer of knowledge view is just plain wrong. So that, to me, was what made the course interesting. So that's what I started with. That's what was the focus of the video. I'm trying to get that point across. I'm not focusing on simple structure of the course. I maybe mentioned a little bit, but I'm trying to talk about what makes the course interesting. So I would encourage you to start by asking, well, what makes your course interesting? And talk for 2-3 minutes on that. Now, when it comes to video, digital storytelling, there's a few simple rules to do a really, really good job at digital storytelling. And the first rule is, when you talk about yourself, this is not a chance to broadcast your CV. And let me ask you a question. This is a way of thinking about it. Let's imagine you are looking for a computer from Dell. Okay, you want to buy a Dell computer. Let's imagine that you go to the Dell website, and instead of finding computers, you find photos of their factory. What would you say? We say it doesn't make sense, right? As a customer, you're not looking for photos of the factory, you're looking for computers, right? That's showing them the factory. Well, unfortunately, most universities, in fact, I think every university, I think 99% of faculty, make this mistake called showing them the factory. And that's when it comes to a bio, what do? We broadcast our CV, where we went to school, what we published. But is that really what students are interested in? I mean, did you pick your professor when you were an undergrad based on where they went to college? Right? When you're sitting around at lunch and someone said, is this a good professor? Did you say, oh, yes, he went to Oxford? Or, oh, yes, she published this paper? No, that's the thing they're least interested in. So don't broadcast your CV. Talk about what you think would be interesting. What would be interesting to someone else as a student? In my case, I think the fact I was married on a 100-mile bike ride is a heck of a lot more interesting than the fact I wrote a dissertation in philosophy about something. I'm sure I could figure it out if I think about it. So those are the kind of things that you should be thinking about. Always, and this may sound kind of trite, but the only thing that matters is significance. The only thing that's interesting to us is what's interesting. So, what are sort of some interesting things about you, about the course, and, what you're doing. So I would definitely focus on that. You're not here to simply repeat simple facts about your past, right? Talk about what would be of interest to other people. Another thing is, please, no ugly stock photos. Now, you see these all the time. These are these smiling business people. They're high-fiving, their thumbs up. I actually have seen when these advertisements that say call now, they have a call center of smiling, good-looking business people. And you've ever been to a call center, they don't look like that. These stock photos are completely neutral. They're meaningless. They don't convey a message. And with the digital storytelling method, what you're using is images to amplify your message. Your voice tells the story. The images amplify the message. So the images should match the message. They should follow the message. They should give your audience a way of focusing on your message, to carry away sort of an image that conveys that. And let me give you an example. Now, I have done a number of talks on how social media has completely transformed not only communication, but how humans collaborate. Fundamentally, how we organize ourselves, how we collaborate to get things done has been completely transformed by social media. And if we ever get a chance, I'll tell you about that. But anyway, in these talks, one of the examples I use is Arab Spring. Okay, and what I do is I ask the audience, Mubarak was in power for 26 years in Egypt. So why at this particular moment, in those 26 years, Arab Spring happened? Why not earlier? Why did Arab Spring happen now in Egypt and all those Arab places? Well, I show them this photo. I said, this explains it. This is an image, a photo that was taken of the major encampment in Egypt during Arab Spring, during the revolution. And you see all the various things in the encampment. You see rubbish bins, kindergarten, toilets, food stalls. And what do you see right at the center? The bloggers. Social media made Arab Spring possible. For the first time ever, the ordinary people could communicate to a mass audience. And they have photos of people standing in boulevards, standing down tanks with cell phones, by holding up cell phones, literally stopping tanks in their track. And then when the revolution was done, they interviewed many of the people in the revolution, many of the leaders, and they held up their cell phones, and they said, this was our weapon. This was how we brought down the government. Now, a bunch of bullet points obviously isn't going to convey that. This image will. You see this image, you get it. You see this image, you remember it. So what you want to do is find images or photos that are meaningful, that amplify your message, that give your audience something to sort of focus on, to carry your message forward. And what I like to do is I just simply create an outline of what I'm going to talk about, and then I just kind of start grabbing images later that match what I'm talking about. So a few good places to find images when you do a digital story. The one I like the best is Google Advanced Image Search. Yeah? And what's nice about Google Advanced Image Search is, and it's a little hard to see here, I realize, but if you look near the top, there's a line that says labeled for reuse with modification. You can actually pick the licensing of the image. So you can say, as a drop-down menu, say, I'm only going to search for images that can be used commercially or can be used for non-commercial purposes or whatever. So you can pick the licensing that matches what you're doing. So like everything in Google, it just plain works well. I like it. Flickr Commons is another very good one. Flickr is owned by Yahoo. It's their photo sharing site. Commons is nice because a lot of nonprofit organizations, National Institutes of Health, National Archives have submitted photos to Flickr Commons. And it's very similar. It's just a search engine. And Commons means that they're public domain photos, or photos can be used. And the third one is Creative Commons. Creative Commons are the people who created the Creative Commons logo that tags images with different kind of copyright. If you go to their website, you can do a search, and what's nice about that is you can actually pick which sites you want to search. So you can search historical images through museums and stuff like that. So I think those are the three best ways, or three best sites for getting images for your digital story. Now, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about how to put together a digital story, and it's not as complex as you think. It really involves three different steps. First, you record your narration. And that's important because narration determines pacing. Okay, you're not going to find your images, line them up, and say each one's 10 seconds long, and then figure out a way of filling up 10 seconds worth of words, right? You're going to speak whatever you want to speak, right? If your topic is a minute, you'll speak a minute on, whatever. The images will follow your narration. So you start by recording your narration, and I like to use Audacity. That's free open source software. It's very, very easy to record, very easy to edit. Okay, and here a lot of people read from a script, which is fine if it doesn't sound scripted. It's hard to not sound scripted, though. I just talk. And what I do is I'll just talk right through it, and if I make a mistake, I just repeat myself. I pause, and I repeat myself. And then at the end, you can delete out the mistakes. And you want to leave a pause because it leaves a flat line in the graph as it goes across. And it's very easy to see that flat line and find a place to sort of insert the blade for the deletion. So I just talk. I don't use a script. If you feel you need to use a script, you can, but it is a little hard to avoid sounding scripted. The second step is to combine imagery with your narration, essentially layer imagery on top of your narration. And then the third step is to upload the video to some place people can find it. Now, up until now, I've been suggesting that people use Audacity to record, and then I've been suggesting people use Google's Live recorder to do their, Google's Live Movie Maker, I've forgotten already, Google's Live Movie Maker to do their video editing, and then to upload it to either YouTube or Vimeo or something like that. But I've since, in the last couple months, have been suggesting a different way. And there's a software system that I really like that essentially allows you to do all three steps at once. And I'd like to show you that now. So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to pause this presentation, and I am going to test to this site. And this site is called Video. Okay. Now, the way to go about this is download the Google Drive app or the Google Drive add-on for WeVideo. So what you do is you go to the Google store and you find WeVideo and you download the add-on. I'm going to explain why in a moment. Now, it doesn't have to be a Google Drive add-on, but it's helpful to download the Google Drive add-on for WeVideo. Okay, and what it is it's simply a way of creating videos, doing video editing, and it's really simple, and it's got a lot of advantages over Windows Live Movie Maker, which has a lot of drawbacks. So when you download it, and it's a free piece of software, of course it's freemium system, so if you want to do more advanced things, you have to pay more, and I'll explain what those are. But you get it started, and you'll see this here, and I've already done some work with some images here, so you've already got a few images. So you get this kind of blank slate. I'll move this over here a bit. Oops, it's not moving now. For some reason, it's not grabbing. Oh, I'll ignore it then. What you do is you put elements in the bottom here, on the left-hand side in the bottom, on this timeline to create your video. So what you do is, let's imagine you first create the soundtrack. You go to Upload, you go to Browse, and then you find the soundtrack. I won't do that now because it's going to take a second. And that falls right into here. And once you find the soundtrack, let's go find it here. John Orlando Audio Bio, that's probably it. All I do is I drag it right down to here, and there's the soundtrack. Then you go to Upload again, Browse, and you find all the images you want. Okay, so you go and you find your images, and again, I won't go through the whole process because it'll take a second to download. Go back to Timeline, and those images will fall right in here. Okay. Now, there's one other thing you can do you might want to think of. I've mentioned that you can record your audio ahead of time in Audacity. But this particular system, one thing that's nice about it is on the lower left-hand side here, you have this voiceover, meaning that it will allow you to record your voice directly into the system. Okay? So all you have to do is hit this red button, and when I hit record, it will give me a countdown, and it will record off my microphone. I won't do it now. So you can do the recording right here if you want. You don't have to do Audacity. Now, I still do Audacity because the editing in Audacity is more powerful than the editing here. Nevertheless, this is a simple way to do it if you want to combine all three steps in one point. So you can do that here. I'm actually going to delete just because when I play it, I'm going to hear the sound. So I'm going to delete the audio. But you would start by putting the audio in. You would download your photos. And then once your photos are in, all you have to do is grab them and put them into this timeline here in order. So I'll just put them in like this. These are just some photos I have sitting around, I guess. Yeah, we'll grab this photo here. Okay. Now what happens, by default, each one is 5 seconds long, and you see on the top right-hand side, that's what the actual video will look like. And if I play it, it will show the video, the photo, and it will swing to the next photo. See? And if I had the audio there, it would be playing the audio at the same time. Right? So it's very simple to do. Now the other thing is you can adjust the length of each image, how long it's on the timeline, just by dragging and dropping, by pulling. Do you see how I'm pulling that? So you see the little green, that tells you how long it is. So all I do is I play the sound, and at some point I say, okay, the first image ends right here. Okay, then I stop, and I simply drag this to that point in the soundtrack. Then I play the sound again, and I say, oh, this one, I want to go that far. And this one, I want to go that far. And you can do stuff like you can move the image around. I can put the one image in front of the other. Now it's in front of this one. So if I want to move them on and off, I can delete it, try a different image, stuff like that. So that's what I mean by you're simply layering the images on top of the sound. Now another thing you can do, which is kind of neat, you can add transitions too. And as I mentioned, one advantage of this of the transitions is if you do a webcam video and it's a long video and you want to do multiple takes, you can do multiple takes, put them onto here as videos, and then just add transitions in between. And the way you do that is fairly simple. I'm going to go up here to this box. This is transitions. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one that I like. So these are all the various transitions. So I'm going to put it, I'm just going to literally drop it in between. Okay, so I'm going to drop this one in here, and I'll just go find different ones that may or may not be good, who knows. And I'll drop this one in here. And there are patterns. You can do transitions or star patterns, stuff like that. But then what it will do is it will simply add the transitions between images. So here, if we're looking at on the right-hand side, so you see how it kind of fell down like that? So it's simply adding that transition. I mean, I'll put a transition between this one and the next one. I stretch the image out a little bit. We're going to see another one here. So you see how it does that wipe. And the third one, it does a wipe again. So you can simply drop the transitions in here. That's very, very easy to do. And then finally, another thing you might want to do if you do use a system like this is add text. So once again, I see this box. Let's imagine I want to add a little caption. So I click text, and all I do is I'll double click this text box. Now just bring it down, and I want to put it on top of the other image. So you notice that on the timeline, the video will show everything that exists at this point in the timeline. So at this point, there's only this particular image. At this point, there's text and an image. So you can see the text is now on top of the image, right? So I have that. I can then click this again. Whoops, I got to click in here, I guess, to edit it. So now I'll edit it. I'll say, I don't know, and in your stuff on time. Okay, I'll just kind of drag that down so it's not quite in front of his face. Okay, and I'll click Done Editing. And now it may look a little funky because we're going to get transition. That's not quite going to follow the text. We'll see about that. Now, let's again take a look at the top right, see how this looks. Okay, so we get the transition, and there we go. You got a text that just simply falls on top of that. Okay, so that's what I mean about layering images on top of audio, and that's how you'd make a digital storytelling style story. Now, we've covered the two first parts. We covered creating the audio. We've covered putting the images on. The third is publish, and this is another fact I really like about the system. When you click publish, it gives you two destinations that you can publish to for free. One is the WeVideo site itself, and that's just a video player. It's just like YouTube or Vimeo. And you can control access. You can make it private. You can make it unpublished. You can actually allow comments and stuff like that. And by default, when you publish, it will always go there. Okay, so one copy always goes there. But if you download the Google Drive app, it connects to Google Drive and will also send a version to Google Drive. And that's nice because once it's on your Google Drive account, you can do anything you want with the video. You could move it. You can put it on YouTube, Vimeo. You could do whatever you want. When it's on the free version, you can't download off of WeVideo. Okay, so the free version can't be downloaded off WeVideo. If you want to pay premium, then you can start downloading, but that's the freemium version. They want you pay for more. But the Google Drive connection does a workaround, because once it's on Drive, you have it, and now you can take it anywhere you want. So it's essentially a way of getting around that limitation that you can only put it on WeVideo. And then you simply send your students a link to what you've created. So I really like this as a way of creating digital stories. It's a very, very simple way of doing that. And I know I could talk a lot more about how you create these stories and all, but I actually just want to not spend too much time on technology. I'll give you kind of flavor. And if you're doing this, you can always talk to me afterwards. And I'll give you advice, and we can talk about how you're going to put this together, and I can give you technical advice. What I want to do, though, before we get to questions, is leave you with one thought, okay? And that's this. I've talked a lot about technology, but really, I've been dishonest by saying that it's about technology, because it's not. Fundamentally, there's one and only one rule about doing live presentations or doing videos, and that's just communicate. And the way I put it is communicate, don't regurgitate. Too many people, when they're doing either live or video presentations, they're just trying to cover content. And it comes off as regurgitated. And sometimes regurgitated is disgusting and smelling. What you want to do is communicate. And here's a good way of thinking about the difference. There's a wonderful comedian who actually has these great YouTube videos. You may have seen him where he's making fun of PowerPoint. And one, he has a video where he proposes to his wife with a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, and he has this PowerPoint presentation with bullet points. He says, we should get married for these 5 reasons. And it's a comedy act, right? Because you never would propose to your spouse with PowerPoint. Why is that? Because a proposal is communication, right? When you're proposing, you're communicating. You're attempting to speak from the heart. And we know that's not what you do when you do a lot of bullet points on PowerPoint. So that's a good way of thinking about what you're doing. You're communicating something to an audience, and if you communicate, the technology doesn't matter, right? A sincere desire to communicate is all you need, and I'm going to prove it to you. And I'm going to leave you with this really, really interesting example. And I'm going to talk about a guy by the name of Gary Vanderchuck. Now, Gary, a few years ago, inherited his family's wine store in New Jersey. Okay, and it was doing okay, but he thought it could do better. So how did he get more people in the store? Well, he didn't have money for advertising, but what he had was a love of wine. Okay, so he started shooting videos that expressed his love of wine. He called it Wine Library TV. And what was interesting is these videos were never edited. All he did is have someone start a camera for 10 minutes, and he would talk. And people would walk in and interrupt him. He'd say, I'm sorry, I'm shooting video, and it would stay in the video. He wouldn't even edit. That's all he had. He was at a video, 10 minutes talking about his love of wine, and that love comes through. Well, within a couple of years, the revenue from his store went up to $65 million a year. And it didn't cost him a single penny. Okay, now he's actually quit. He sold the store. I think he's a professional speaker. But he did that with nothing more than expressing his love of wine. And I'm going to give you one more link that I think you're really going to like, because it's an example of exactly what this means. And just give me a second here to get it into the share. What I want you to do, so I want you to go to his site called Wine Library. And what I want you to do is simply watch the first 3 minutes and 30 seconds of this video I'm giving you, okay? Watch the first 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And you're going to tell there's a break where he stops talking about his former interview, okay? But just watch what he does. And that's going to get across this point about communication. Okay, so try that now. I think you're going to really enjoy that. Remember, you just watched the first 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That's all you need to see. And that'll give you the flavor of what he's doing. Give you a couple more seconds here. So I hope you enjoyed that. And that if there's anything your audience should come out with, they should enjoy it. Now, there are literally hundreds of people in this world making a full-time living shooting videos in their bedrooms and their living rooms that they're putting on YouTube and collecting ad revenue. My son's girlfriend shoots a weekly beauty show from her bedroom, and she has a few thousand subscribers. She's a small fry. There are people with 10, 20 million subscribers on YouTube. But all she does is she just talks to other high school girls about beauty products, literally, for 10 minutes. And a few thousand people watch her every week because she's just conveying what she knows about beauty products because she works at Bed Bath & Beyond. And that's all it is. It's just a sincere desire to communicate. And once you have that, the technology doesn't matter. So with that, we have a few minutes, and hopefully we have at least a few questions. Do we have any questions that don't come down the pike there, Tracy?
We do, but the first thing I'm going to do for folks who are interested, I am posting in the chat box all of the videos John had prepared for today, and you can copy these and put them on a Word document so that you can have them for later viewing. A couple folks said they couldn't access them because of some plug-in issues. So I urge you to just copy these out and save them for your later use. Let's see. We've got some easy questions I'm going to toss your way, then we'll get into the meaty ones.
Okay.
John, Tara asked if you have any recommendations for how long a welcome video should be.
You know, they say that face-to-face videos probably shouldn't go more than about 4 or 5 minutes. Now, I have seen them much longer than that. If you can keep the energy up, I think you can. But they say it shouldn't go more than 4 or 5. And I think if you're not really used to doing this, I would definitely not go more than about 4 minutes.
Someone else asks, John, what about the file size? Is that a consideration?
Yeah, the good thing is that because you're going to post this on YouTube, Vimeo, or WeVideo, file size doesn't matter because you're not sending, and this is an important thing to emphasize, you're not going to send your students the actual file because that would be too big. It would be too big at least for a email. You probably would send it through Dropbox or something like that. But what you're going to do is you're going to upload it to a place that they can watch it on their own, and then just send them the link. And because of that, file size really doesn't matter. File size is not relevant.
I had another question. I'm scrolling back to capture it. Sarah asks, can you briefly discuss how to record if your webcam is built in? And Sarah, I'm assuming you mean if you have a laptop and the webcam is built into the laptop, or even if you're hardwired somehow and can't roam around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no difference in recording if it's hardwired into your laptop. If there is, the laptop comes with software, and of course you'd have to take a look at what your particular laptop is. Is it a Dell? Is it a Mac? Stuff like that. But my wife and I, we have a mixed marriage. I'm a PC, she's a Mac. It's a problem, yes, but so I don't know much about Macs. I know with PCs, generally, in the start menu, you'll just be able to find the webcam recording button. You'll click it, you'll open it, and then when it's done, you're going to have to find the file. The only thing that does come up with webcams, like most recording software, actually most software in general, when you make a product, a recording or whatever, don't just allow the software to put in a default location, because they always pick a dumbest default location that you can never find it later. So just when you do a webcam recording, make sure that it's being saved in a location you can find it. And then once you find it, then you're going to upload it to YouTube, Vimeo, or you could put it right into WeVideo and then use that to upload it to the WeVideo site. So I'd have to take a look, of course, at your particular laptop to see which buttons you have to choose. But in principle, it shouldn't be much different from what you would get if you just buy a webcam.
I have to second what John just said. This is Tracy speaking, and I'm very notorious for misplacing videos on my hard drive somewhere. I don't know where they go.
Yeah,
and I have to be very conscious of how I set everything up in advance so that things go where I expect them to go.
Yeah, most people by default, they say put it on your desktop so that then you know where it is, because it'll set up a weird folder structure and it'll bury it in your program folders somewhere, and who knows why they do it. I don't know why they do that, but yeah.
There are lots of other video tools out there. This is just Tracy speaking in response to some comments Nancy had posted in the chat box. There's also Screencast-O-Matic that's available. Some folks are real adept at using Movie Maker and may want to just be comfortable with that. As I was watching John demonstrate the Wii video, and that link is in the chat box too. I was posting those tools as you were mentioning those, John. And that's one that kind of looks like something I'm already familiar with, whereas Windows Movie Maker makes my head explode. So it may just take some playing around with some of these tools to find one with which you're comfortable. But I do want to loop back to some comments that Eva shared in the chat box. And I think it's a nice way to end today's presentation about just communicating, as you have on the screen. Eva asked, do you really expect us to be like Gar the wine guy? He's not my style. Isn't this about coming across as being authentic and being yourself?
Exactly. You know, it's interesting, the wine guy, they say that's how he really is. He really is like that. And if you're not really like that, then you shouldn't. I've actually seen some very, very cool videos. I actually saw a video by a physics professor who was basically a real dweeby physics professor and came off as real dweeby. And I think that was cool. He didn't try to be anything else. I mean, he kind of smiled and made jokes, but he came off as how he is. So it's really, yeah, it's about communicating in an authentic way. And you know, if you're not like the wine guy, you won't want to communicate that way. I have a different style, and my wife has a different style, and I'm sure you do. But again, going back to the idea of, I know this may sound hokey, but this idea of what's a proposal? What style did you use for a proposal, right? I mean, that's communicating. So what is the style that you use when you communicate? Imagine the person's right in front of you, and just use that. And then I think you'll be fine.
We have a couple of other quick mechanics questions. I see our time is up. One person says, what sort of attire should we wear? And another one says, once you publish the welcome video, is it viewable to the general public on YouTube, or can you restrict the access?
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we can answer these questions and a few others and give you more guidelines along the way. But, John, I want to ask you, are you available to help folks if they want to go this route?
Oh, yeah, of course. I'll definitely be available, and please just contact me, and I can help you. All the video hosting sites have some way of making a video either private or unlisted. So just kind of briefly, there are really 3 levels. If you go on YouTube and it's public, then it can be searched and it can be found. You can make it private, which means that the only people who can reach it are those that you actually submit their email address. So you would submit a student's email address, so then it's private. There's a middle level called unlisted, and I think that's plenty of security. And what unlisted just means it's not going to show up a search, but somebody doesn't need your permission to get to it. You don't need a password. And when you look at a YouTube video, the actual URL is basically a long code. You're never going to wander into that by accident. In fact, if you give someone a password, the password is something rememberable, like, you know, your name or something. That's the worst type of password. You know, it's easily guessable. The best type of password is an effectively random string of digits, and that's what the URL is in YouTube. Look at the URL. It's an effectively random string of digits. So if you make it unlisted, essentially the URL becomes the password. You give somebody the URL, that is the password that gets them to it, because nobody's ever going to guess that. So I think unlisted is a good way to go. That way you don't have to go through the process of giving people permission to see it. And that's going to be true. I know that WeVideo has that, YouTube, and I'm assuming Vimeo has that too. So that's the way I would go. I'm sorry, I forgot, what was the second question again?
Attire, and we will send out recommendations on that with some follow-up materials.
Okay.
We have overshot the hour, John.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Lots of thank yous from the chat box.
Well, thank you, everybody, and I look forward. By the way, if you create videos, here's another thing. Please send me links. Please send me links, and I'm hoping, please, that you would be willing to share these examples with others so we can see what each other is doing. You can look at my example. You can say, oh, I like that. I don't like that. You know, I love the cow. Oh, don't like the cow. Okay, look at different examples. That's how I learned. I looked at examples. I watched by learning, right? Or I learned by watching. I guess I got it backwards. So please send me your examples. Send me your examples and tell me if you want them to be available to others so we can look at examples and get ideas. So thank you very much.
I've put John's email in the chat box. This is Tracy. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and have a good one. Thank you.